Who dat to the Who Dat Nation? Welcome to the Dome Patrol Podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and week 5 of the NFL season is wrapped up nice and tight with a nice shiny bow on top as Monday Night Football has come to a close when our New Orleans Saints took on the defending champs, the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium. Well, it's not Arrowhead anymore, isn't it? It's called something else. But in any event, it don't matter. It could have been I-10 Stadium. It didn't matter. The New Orleans Saints have fallen yet again for the third consecutive week, putting their record at 2-3, falling to the Chiefs by the score of 26-13. Let me just start off the show like this. First and foremost, this is my second take on the show. and I might be a little winded, a little tired, and it probably won't be the best. And I want to apologize for it not being the best. It's not for reasons of the game or what I prepared for the show. The reason is like that. I recorded about 30 minutes of the episode and didn't realize that my file was corrupted and it didn't record. And I went on a 30-minute rant, an epic 30-minute rant. And that's probably why it stopped. That's probably God reached down and hit the stop button or something, because I went off. I'm not going to lie to you. I went off. I probably won't go off like that this go around. I'm gonna try to stay professional for this go around. But it was kind of upsetting. I threw the headphones and everything. I almost broke the monitor here, but it's all good. It's all good. Got everything straight now. And so we're ready to go. But like I said, the Saints have lost their third consecutive game. And now they sit in third place in the division at 2-3. The Kansas City Chiefs continued their undefeated streak. They are currently 5-0 on the season, and their first decisive win of the season. The previous 4 games were high and tight. They squeaked it out at the end and needed some assistance from the refs and all this other foolishness for the first month of the season. Not today. Not against the Saints. Didn't need their help. Didn't need the refs' help this go around. The Saints helped them out enough. The game started off. Opening drive. Saints get the ball. They're moving the ball pretty well. They're running the ball pretty good. Despite the fact our depleted offensive line, this makeshift offensive line, the Saints were actually moving the ball that first drive, only to end in epic fashion. And this is where my rant came in last time. And I'm going to try not to do, well, I can't help it. I'm going to give it to you again. I'm going to do it again because it needs to be said. I want the Who Dat Nation. I want everybody who is a Saints fan in some shape, form, or fashion to come to the realization. The Saints aren't going anywhere with Dennis Allen as the head coach of this team, with Derek Carr as the quarterback of this team. I just came to that realization. I already knew. I was trying, bruh. Honest to God, I went into this season optimistic. I said, you know what? Let bygones be bygones. Let's water under the bridge the last 2 seasons. Let's go into this fresh. We got a new offense. It seems like we got a new attitude, a new swag. They start the season off, first 2 games of the season, they're molly-whopping teams. Granted, it was the Carolina Panthers. Granted, it was the Dallas Cowboys. But they did what they were supposed to do. They wiped the field with those teams. All right, they turned the corner. Even then, I was skeptical. I'm like, we're not going to be able to have this offensive output the entire season. I don't see that happening. But if as long as we're half that, if we could do half that in every game offensively, we'll be all right. And you know, that's typically the drop off. You was averaging 43, 44 points a game at that point. You scored 91 points in the first two games. And so you're like, okay, if you could cut that in half to say, you dropped off 50%, understandable. That's still an average of 28 points or something. I don't know. I'm horrible at math. But let's just say 28 points a game. That's winnable, especially if you have a defense that's not allowing 20 points a game. That's not allowing but one touchdown per game. And so you're like, okay, we're good. Well, the defense held up their end of the bargain for the most part. But offensively, all of a sudden, we can't score 20 points. We can't put up 20 points in a game. And in one of those games, you're at home. And I'm like, man, how can this team that was just unstoppable at one point fall off like that? You can't tell me the defenses have adjusted that well. Now, they made adjustments. I know they took some things away. They're taking away that deep play with Shadeed. Of course, defenses, they can take that away. They can take the top off, or at least keep the lid on the top, I should say. All right, you can contain Shadeed. But what about the run game? All right, you can make the excuse. Offensive line is banged up and blase blue. Even still, you ain't even trying to run the ball. Now, they did try at the beginning of this game, but once the game got kind of out of control, they run away from it. And you're still losing linemen, excuse me, in the course of this game. And, well, we'll go through the whole chain of events. But it's like, man, is this team truly cursed? You know what I'm saying? Is there a curse on this team for real? But going back to the Derek Carr of it all, that opening drive, you're moving the ball. They were running the ball efficiently. They were actually looking good running the ball. And then, okay, you made some passes, but you're not looking for the dink and dunk in the middle of the field, which was wide open. Wide open. Derek Carr does one of the most bonehead interceptions I've ever seen thrown in an NFL game. High school kids know not to throw the ball like that. Oh, somebody's coming at me. A defensive play, and that's his problem. Every time he gets pressure, he just throws the ball. He just throws it. That's how he got the interception last week. The week before that, same thing when he threw the intercept. He's so scared to get hit. It's like, bro, you play football, you're gonna get hit. But he throws the ball like a punt. It was like playing throw up tackle when we were kids. You remember that? Throw up tackle? That's exactly what he did. And it got picked off. And at that moment, I knew, man, we're going to lose this game. We're going to lose this game because Derek Carr does not have the mental capacity to brush things off. He doesn't brush off turnovers. He doesn't brush off bad plays. You know what I'm saying? It's like he doesn't know how to recover from a mistake. And then he blamed the flex. And see, he'll find a way to justify that. He'll find a way to justify that pick. I bet you dollars to donuts he'll find a way to do it. If he don't do it, Dennis Allen will. I bet you. I haven't watched the post game interview with Dennis Allen, but he always defends Derek Carr. Always. No matter what. Now, he'll call out Shadeed for that muff punt last week. He'll call out Chris Olave for not running the right route or Kendrick Miller for not being healthy and all this other stuff. Yeah, he'll call them out, but he'll never say anything negative towards Derek Carr. And especially this week, he's not going to say anything because Derek Carr ended up getting hurt at the end of the game. And you know what's sad about that? I didn't care. I didn't care he got hurt. God forgive me. I hope he's all right. But I didn't care. Honestly, it's like, man, whatever. I don't care at this point. He can go. He can go. This dude is not it. He is not it. He is not the one to lead us to what we ultimately covet for here in the Who Dat Nation, and that is a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, I'm going too far. I'm reaching too far out. I'm I'm reaching for the moon. Let's just stick with the stars, or is it vice versa? Whatever the case is, the division. Let's win the division. Let's win a playoff game. Then we can talk about a Super Bowl. We can't even get out of our own way. Now, this is the first game I can clearly say the Saints lost. They got somebody beat the Saints. Now, the other two games with the Eagles and the Falcons, Saints lost those games. The Eagles did not beat the Saints. Falcons did not beat the Saints. The Saints beat themselves in those two games. Tonight, Monday Night Football, prime time, world can see. Chiefs beat them. Chiefs beat the brakes off them. And that 26-13 score does not reflect what truly went on. I think the Chiefs got into the red zone, 7, 8 times maybe. We're gonna go over the numbers, but they were in the red zone like crazy. Saints in their patent, infamous bend don't break. They'll let you get down the field, but then they're stingy once they get in the red zone. But either way, come on, man. We got to do better than this. We got to do better than this as a team. As a team. I don't know. And Dennis Allen, he needs to stick to something. Be strong in your convictions. You said you're gonna run man coverage. I didn't agree with that statement. That's what he was saying earlier through the week. Oh, we're gonna stick with what we're doing with man coverage. All right, fine. That's fine. But then you see in the game they run in zone. Which is it? Then they'll switch back to man. Then they'll go back into a zone. And every time they do that, you see Patrick Mahomes checking out. He'll check out whatever they're doing. Go back. He saw everything Dennis Allen was throwing at him. Everything. Now, I'm not going to rag on the defense too much because the defense was the one shining light tonight. The one shining light. They did hold them to 26 points, which is pretty phenomenal against this team because this is, like I said, the defending champs, undefeated team. Despite the fact how they won their games in the past, they won them. Now, you can make an argument. You actually can make an argument that the Chiefs really didn't beat the Saints like that. Now, I can rock with it. A lot of this is anger that I'm saying that I'm coming at you with right now. But the truth is, the Saints got their behind whipped. But the Saints had their opportunities. They had their opportunities. The Saints managed to make it close before halftime. They cut it to 3 late in the second quarter. They scored a touchdown, deep throw to Shadeed. All right, it's 10-7. I think it probably was less than 2 minutes left in the game. The Chiefs was able to go down, kick a field goal. All right, that's fine. We was able to hold them. We was able to hold them. It's still a one possession game going into the half. Some strange reason, Saints went 3 and out and gave them people another shot. They gave them one more chance and got another field goal. Now it's a 9-point game. Just that quick, just like that. And you're like, my God, man, come on, bro. And then Chiefs get the ball back first in the second half. So now it's like, oh my God. Thankfully, Chiefs didn't score on their opening possession, but that's besides the point, but we still had a shot. Saints got back into the game in the third quarter thanks to a end zone interception by the most unlikely of figures. The defensive tackle, Kalen Saunders, who coincidentally is a former Kansas City Chief. He returned it 36 yards, and quarterback Derek Carr led the Saints to their second touchdown drive. a 6-yard pass to tight end Foster Monroe. Yes, we got a tight end catching a touchdown today. Who knew? And they made it 16-13 at the start of the fourth quarter. So now you're like, okay, we're clawing our way back in this. We have a chance to do something in this game. Well, Patrick Mahomes thought differently. He led the Chiefs to a scoring drive to make it 23-13. The Saints marched back into Chiefs territory on the next possession, but Derek Carr on the fourth down attempt, he threw the ball to Mason Tifton, the rookie, he had a step on him, and actually Derek Carr made a pretty good throw. Mason Tifton just flat out dropped it. Coincidentally, that was the same play Derek Carr got hurt on. They said it was an oblique injury. I don't know what an oblique is. I guess that's in your stomach or something, or in your back, a hip or something. I don't know. I got to see in biology. I don't know what it is. But in any event, Jake Hader, he came in on the final drive for the Saints offense and did nothing. He did nothing. The Saints used their makeshift offensive line. Running back Alvin Kamara could only manage 26 yards on 11 carries. 26 yards. Shadid, he had a big night. He had 4 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. That was it. That was the only offensive output you had. Saints could do nothing. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, he had a monster game, but he didn't throw a touchdown tonight. Once again, you want to rag on the defense, but at the same time, the defense, they play well enough to win. The New Orleans Saints defense, they're not elite. They're not an elite defense. They're not top 10. I would say they're more middle of the pack type defense. I think they're capable of being a top 10 defense, but they're not there. They're not there. They really they're hampered too. They were really hampered tonight as well. 2/3 of their linebackers were out. They didn't play, and so they were really it was a mash unit out there. But no excuses. That's not an excuse. But it really hurts. It really hurts to see that team squander these opportunities. Now, granted, I had figured the Saints were going to lose this game. I predicted the Saints would lose this game, but I thought I would see, a little more effort, just a tad bit more effort, better execution, better play calling. Oh man, I don't know. Well, next week the Saints will host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 3-2 right now in the Superdome. Tampa Bay will be here this week. I think they come to tomorrow, Tuesday. They're coming to New Orleans because of the hurricane that is projected to make landfall in Tampa, either Tuesday or Wednesday. I haven't been watching the news, but thoughts and prayers to everybody in Florida who's going to be affected by that. And Tampa Bay Buccaneers are affected by that. So they're just going to stay the week here in New Orleans and prepare to kick our butts while they're here. But that's going to be the game for Sunday. Let's go over the stats of tonight's game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Before I go over the numbers of the game, Derek Carr did leave the game with an oblique injury. Safety Will Harris, he left the game earlier with a hamstring. Didn't look good when he pulled up. So I don't know what's gonna come of that. And let's keep in mind, like I mentioned, we play Tampa on Sunday. Short week. So I don't know how we're gonna navigate through this, but let's go over the stats. Starting with passing for the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr was the leading passer today. 18 for 28, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 horrible interception. He was sacked 1 time tonight. Jake Hader, like I said, he came in late. He was 2 for 7 for 17 yards. For the Kansas City Chiefs, it was Pat Mahomes. He was 28 for 39, 331 yards, no touchdowns, and one interception. He was sacked twice tonight, and he did all that with no wide receivers. I just wanted to throw that out there. Rushing for the New Orleans Saints, the leading rusher tonight was, of course, Alvin Kamara, 11 carries for 26 yards. Jake Hader, 2 carries for 11 yards, and Jamal Williams, 2 carries for 9 yards. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Kareem Hunt, 27 carries for 102 yards and a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 6 carries for 22 yards. Carson Steele had 5 carries for 12 yards, and Xavier Worthy, 1 carry for 3 yards. Leading receiver for the New Orleans Saints was Rashid Shaheed, 4 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. Alvin Kamara comes in second with 6 catches for 40 yards. Jawan Johnson, 5 catches for 31 yards. Foster Moreau, 2 catches for 13 yards and a touchdown. Chris Olave had 2 catches for 10 yards. 2 catches for 10 yards. Mason Tifton had 1 catch for 2 yards. For the Kansas City Chiefs, their leading receiver today was Juju Smith-Schuster. 7 catches for 130 yards, which is a shock to me. It was a shock to me. A lot of that was off of 1 catch, though. I think he had like a 50-yard reception. But for the most part, he really, averaged. Travis Kelce, of course, he had 9 catches for 70 yards. At one point, he was the only one getting the ball, and he was wide open every time. And it was so infuriating. It's so infuriating to watch that transpire throughout the game, at least early on in the game. I think he got hurt, but he didn't come out. But it was, I forgot where it was. I think it was on the goal line. He got kind of bent up. But after that, he really didn't get the ball after that. He was mostly in there as a decoy, I think. But on defense, the leading tackler for the New Orleans Saints was returning Demario Davis off of injury from last week. He had 11 tackles today. And for the Kansas City Chiefs, it was Nick Bolton. He had 11 tackles today. Team stats. Now, the team stats going to tell it all. This defines everything that happened in this game tonight. First downs, total first downs today. Saints had 14 total first downs. The Kansas City Chiefs had 28. Doubled that. That tells a lot. Third down efficiency. Saints were 4 for 10. The Chiefs were 6 for 14. On fourth down efficiency, Saints went for it twice, converted 0. 0 on fourth down. The Chiefs went for it once, and they had 1 attempt and converted it once. So they were 100% on fourth down efficiency. Total plays. Now, when we want to rag on the defense, I need you to hear these numbers. Hear these numbers. And once again, this isn't an excuse, but you have to put things in perspective. Look at it in its totality. The Saints ran 51 plays on offense. The Kansas City Chiefs ran 80 plays. The 80 plays. Wait till we get to the time of possession. 80 plays. Total yardage. Saints had 220 yards. The Chiefs had 460. Total drives. They both had 10 drives. That really shines the light on the total plays ran. They both had the same number of drives. Yet and still, the Kansas City Chiefs ran almost twice as many plays as the New Orleans Saints. Yards per play. Saints had 4.3 yards per play, which isn't bad. But the Chiefs had 5.8 yards per play. Passing yardage, Saints had 174 total yards to the Chiefs 321. Rushing, the Saints had 15 rushes for 46 yards as a team. The Kansas City Chiefs, 39 rushes for 139 yards. Yards per rush, Saints 3.1, Chiefs 3.6. Red zone, the Saints were 1 for 1. They only got in the red zone once, but they were 100%. The Chiefs were 2 for 7. They got in the red zone 7 times and only managed to score 26 points. Yeah, I mean, like I said, look at the defense in its totality. In its totality, it is not the defense. Penalties, Saints had 5 penalties for 70 yards. Chiefs had 6 penalties for 55 yards. One of those penalties, Paulson and Debo, man, it's starting to become a habit. You're starting to do this at least once a game with the PIs. Granted, he's the reason why Saunders got that interception. That was a really good defensive play by him to knock the ball out of, I think that was Juju Smith-Schuster's hand. Great play. But 2 plays before that, that's how they got in the red zone. It was the PI. So, I mean, come on, man. Paulson Debo, you got to do better, man. You got to clean that up. Seriously, you got to clean that up. Turnovers, they were 1 apiece. Time of possession, Saints had the ball for 20 minutes and 4 seconds to the Kansas City Chiefs. 39 minutes and 56 seconds. Might as well round that off. They had the ball for 40 minutes. The defense was on the field for 40 minutes. The entire game. Let's just call it what it is. The entire game. Quarters, there are 4 quarters in a game. Every quarter is 15 minutes in case you don't know. They basically was there for a half, for one entire half plus 5 minutes. Come on. Did you expect a team to win like that? And the reason I'm saying is not so much what the Chiefs were doing. Now, Chiefs were doing an excellent job of extending drives and having these long 6-minute drives and all this here. That was great. But when you have the Saints offense 3 and out, in a turnover and all this other foolishness, man, come on, man. You got to do better. You got to do better. Let's get to the grades of tonight's game against the Kansas City Chiefs. If this is your first time joining the show, welcome to the show, by the way. But how we do the grading system, I grade every unit of the New Orleans Saints for the game: offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. We round that up and come up with an overall grade, I should say. Wish it was a game. Overall grade for the New Orleans Saints performance on Monday night against the Chiefs. Let's begin with the offense. Offense had just a horrible showing tonight. Horrible. This is probably the worst out of the 3 losses, in my humble opinion. I know we had a horrible showing last week against Atlanta, but this topped that. They looked dejected. There was no energy from that team. They just looked dejected on that field. Derek Carr looked like whatever. After that interception, it was like a deer in headlights at that point. He was just trying to do whatever, trying to make up for it. And when he threw that touchdown, he yelling to the sideline, "Oh, I told you. What, told us what? What you said? Or what have you done? You don't have to tell me nothing. You've shown me everything I needed to see." And he is not the guy. I'm sorry, bro. Derek Carr is just not the guy. They didn't run the ball. You only ran the ball 15 times. 15 times. You're on the road. You're on the road, man. What did you see? What did you see in game film that said, okay, we can jack it up? If you're not going to run the ball, run some screen plays. Do some dinking and dunking. You weren't trying it. Everything. Derek Carr looking deep, trying to go deep, trying to force it to Shadeed. He's throwing the ball to Shadeed in triple coverage and all his other. What are y'all doing, bruh? The offense tonight gets a D plus. I mean, horrible. The only thing saved them from an F, they did manage to put up 13 points. That's the only thing that saved them. But it was a piss poor performance by the New Orleans Saints offense tonight. Very, very disappointing. Defense. Defense, I wish I can say that Patrick Mahomes just went wild on them. I could live with that. I can live with Patrick Mahomes going full Patrick Mahomes on us because it's Patrick Mahomes. I'm cool with that. But that wasn't really the case. It wasn't. The Saints defense did their job. It could have been better. It should have been better. A lot of those drives, there was some poor tackling. There was some poor execution. I felt on pass rush. I've been saying this since the beginning of the season. Even when the first 2 weeks of the season, when we were demolishing the Panthers and the Cowboys, that pass rush had question marks around it because we couldn't get to the quarterback. For some strange reason, we could not get to the quarterback, and it's starting to rear its ugly head once again. I know Patrick Mahomes is Harry Houdini Jr. in that pocket. He will escape it by any means necessary, and not escape it like Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson or going back to Michael Vick. That's not what he's doing. He's just extending the play. And when you do that, you expect these cornerbacks, these safeties to cover these receivers for 6-7 seconds? No, nobody can do that. I don't care what corner he is. That's virtually impossible. And this is how those receivers break loose, get open, they break from their routes, and voila, that magic happens. And that's what he's the master of. And he did it to him on a few occasions. So you have to get to him and get him down. The problem I had was they were getting back there. They couldn't get to him. And this has been a problem. And I wasn't expecting it because just last week, Kirk Cousins, who is just a tad bit more mobile than the Statue of Liberty, just a tad bit more mobile than that, y'all couldn't get to him. And so, it doesn't shock me they couldn't get to Patrick Mahomes. But the defense did force them to 20 field goals tonight. I don't know. How many field goals did they kick? What, about 4? Whatever, 3 or 4. And really stifled them in the red zone. I mean, got a turnover in the red zone. I mean, what more can you ask for? They held them to 26 points. Your team has proven 26 points ain't nothing for y'all. Matter of fact, y'all have scored that in halves in the first 2 weeks of the season. And so you theoretically you would think, okay, the Saints should come out victorious in this, or at least keep the game closer than what it ended up being. But no, it didn't. But I don't fault the defense per se. But there are problems on that defense. And I know we are dealing with a lot of injuries on offense as well, but we have a lot on defense too. It's just not being talked about as much as offense because that offensive line has just been murderer's row. But the defense tonight against the Kansas City Chiefs gets a C plus. Yeah, I mean, they weren't the greatest, but I think they played well enough to win this game. They did the best they could against the best. So what more can you ask for? Special teams gets a D. I'm not going to go into a long explanation about them. I mean, Blake Groupie, he's another one. I'm pretty much done with. I'm done with him. I mean, yeah, he can kick a 58-yarder straight down Bourbon Street, but ask him to kick an extra point, a little chip shot, extra point, and it's wide right. I mean, come on, bro. Are you serious? How you miss an extra point? And this is second one of the year. We didn't talk about it before because we end up winning that game. But, I mean, come on, man. And granted, that point wouldn't have made a difference tonight. But I mean, come on, we need all the points we can get. But yeah, man. And to add to that, did Jamal Williams on that kick return? What were you doing, dude? Really? What were you doing? What are you thinking? He was an inch away from the Saints starting at the inch yard line. You know, if he tried to nail it, and he's standing there looking around like, what should I do? Run it. What you think? You'd have messed up. You could have started at the 30. You almost had us at the inch line. I mean, come on, man. This is like the second week in a row we didn't have brain farts on special teams. It was Shadeed last week trying to field a punt at the 2-yard line and muffing it, and then he about to kill us with field position, which we ain't end up doing nothing on that drive anyway. But it's the principle of the thing. Yeah, special teams gets a D. Coaching gets a D plus. They did not have this team ready to play. Dennis Allen. I mean, when is enough enough? Honestly. I mean, Mickey Loomis got to sit back and think and be honest with itself. When is enough enough? And you know what the problem is? You know what the problem is? It's the fact that Dennis Allen, I think, in his core, is a good dude. All indications, and this is going by players who played with him and people who know him and worked with him before, say he is a generally good dude. And I believe that with my whole heart, that he is an awesome guy. I think he is. He just has that. He looks like a cool dude that you could sit down, chat with, you know, throw a few beers down with or whatever y'all like to do. He just seems like a cool dude. But that don't mean you're a good coach. At least head coach. You're a real good defensive coordinator. You can put that on your tombstone. He is a awesome defensive coordinator. Head coach? No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just not working, man. This team, it just seemed undisciplined. It's just undisciplined stuff that happens. Not completely undisciplined. It's not like the team is running wild, going rogue all over the place. But it's just at crucial moments, they do stupid stuff that fundamentally, this is what the coach teaches you. This is what your coach shoves down your throat through training camp and practice during the games, all this. You're supposed to be a motivator. You're supposed to teach your team this stuff. And they keep doing it every week. I can see a player doing something every now and then and once in every blue moon. And, you know, it happens. People make mistakes. They're not robots. But when they keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again, are you teaching these dudes? And even if you're teaching them and they still doing it, have the cojones to bench him, to say, you know what, since you ain't listening, listen to this bench. Listen to a headset or something. Let's sit down, stand next to me, or whatever the case may be. That's my problem with Dennis Allen. And stop taking up for Derek Carr. You know, like I think I said it on this version of the show. I probably said it on the last one, but whatever. If I said it earlier, I'm gonna repeat it again. He ragged on poor Kendre Miller when he got hurt in training camp. I mean, he went off. He went off on Shadeed for muffing that punt, rightfully so. He went off on somebody else about something a couple of weeks ago, but he never, since Derek Carr been the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, said one disparaging word about Derek Carr. I understand that's your boy. I get it. But you have eyes, and you have to recognize that the Who Dat Nation have eyes too. We can see just as well as you can see. And we can see that this dude just ain't it. Stop making excuses for him. You don't make an excuse for nobody else. Don't make an excuse for him. Coaching gets a D plus. overall, the New Orleans Saints performance tonight against the Kansas City Chiefs gets a letter grade of a D plus. Yeah, this was a horrible game. This was a horrible game. Worst game of the season so far. The only shining light, the only light at the end of the tunnel that we can see is that this is probably the last, I would say, quote unquote, tough opponent that we're going to have. At least playoff opponent that we're going to have going forward. Yeah, now there are some teams that pop up on the schedule that are doing better this year than initially thought going into this season. You know, you got the Commanders coming up. You know, you have Denver coming up, and you know you're gonna have some tough matchups. But as far as a elite top tier team, I think this was it. This was the last of it, and so the rest are winnable. How I know the rest are winnable? Because these games were winnable. These last 3 weeks, Saints could easily be 5-0. Maybe that's reaching too far for the moon. But I know at worst, the Saints should be 4-1 at this point. At worst. But here we stand at 2-3. The MVPs for tonight's game, I give an MVP out every week. This was tough to give an MVP out to this week, and I give one out to the offensive player and a defensive player. On offense, even though the offense was poo-poo, I'm going to go ahead on and give it to Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara played his heart out. And the reason I'm giving it to him, even though he only had 11 carries for 26 yards, Alvin Kamara has a cracked rib. He's dealing with a hip injury, and that man went out there and gave it his all. He did the best he could. Honest to God. He really went out there and played tough. And I got to give him his respect on that. Defensively, got to give it to Kalen Saunders. Getting that interception and getting that big return off of it. The play before that, he blew up a run play, which was, monster. He blew it up, boy. I think he was he was the one that hit Travis Kelce. Kind of put him out the game for the remainder of the game. Even though Travis Kelce didn't come out the game, he didn't do anything after that. He didn't. Kalen Saunders, he did his thing tonight against the Chiefs. Unfortunately, he didn't play offense. And once again, the New Orleans Saints fall to the Kansas City Chiefs by the score of 26-13. The only good thing, well, not the only good thing, there are some good things to take away from this game, but the biggest thing to take away from this game that you can kind of shake off, no pun intended, Taylor Swift was at the game, you can kind of rest easy knowing that this won't affect you majorly because this was an AFC team. And being as though this is an AFC team, it doesn't hurt you playoff wise going forward if we want to play that game, you know. But as far as how we stand in our division, trying to keep up in our division, it does hurt. It does hurt because we were trying to keep pace with everybody else. Atlanta is 3-2, Tampa is 3-2, and so winning this game would have, tied you with those two teams, with Tampa coming to the Dome this Sunday, and so that would have helped a little bit, but now you're a game behind. It's an AFC team, so maybe that'll help you rest easier tonight. And so that's the game. How do you feel about the game? Are you upset? Do you think we ought to give Derek Carr another shot? How many more shots are we gonna give him? He's been here for 2 years and he hasn't shown us nothing. Let's be honest here. Let's be real. Let's look over the tenure of Derek Carr. Now, once again, I know the man's hurt. I don't know how severe the injury is. I think I just read he has he's going for an MRI on Tuesday. to see how serious the injury is. He has not shown in any facet, even in the games that we were dominant in. Can you really say Derek Carr was the reason we were dominant in those games? Derek Carr is an average quarterback at best. And I mean average. He is bland. He is straight up vanilla ice cream. There's nothing amazing about this guy. There's nothing in Derek Carr that tells me, even if this game was close at the end, that Derek Carr would lead us to a victory. He hasn't done it since he's been here. I know there's that super statistic that they love to throw up that Derek Carr has the most comeback victories or something, 36 or something. I don't know. Victories in his career. He hasn't done them here. And you got to ask yourself, why did we have to come back? And why did he have to come back in all those games? That's a question you would ask about the cause, not the effect, but the cause. And so I have no faith in that dude. Now, I wish him a speedy recovery. I don't want the man to be hurt. I don't want his career to be over or nothing like that. I don't think it's that severe of an injury, but you know what I'm saying. I don't wish bad on the guy as far as health-wise, but I don't want him as my quarterback. I'm done. When he threw that pick, I was done. I mean, every ounce of emotion that I had was gone. I'm done. I have nothing else to say to it. But anyways, that's the game. Saints are 2-3. They play Tampa this Sunday in the Dome. We'll see. We'll preview that game later on this week. But yeah, that's the results. Monday Night Football, primetime. The world got to see this destruction of our team. I would love to know your thoughts about the Saints going forward. Do you think the Saints season is in free fall? Do you think we can bounce back this Sunday? Do you think we can get back on track? Get back to our winning ways? Are we what our record says we are? Sub 500 team. I would like to know your thoughts, man. How do you feel about Dennis Allen? How do you feel about Derek Carr? How do you feel about Clint Kubiak now? Do you think he is the second coming of Pete Carmichael, whatever? I think Pete Carmichael called a decent game. I really do. I think I mean, you got to think about it. He's trying to make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what. He has a depleted offensive line. Taysom Hill didn't play, and apparently that is the engine that keeps this truck rolling. And so I'm not mad at him. He actually called some decent plays. That touchdown to Foster Monroe, that was a fire play. That was an awesome play call. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also comment on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Dome Patrol podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this recap and reaction to the Saints Monday night slacking as they lose to the Kansas City Chiefs by the score of 26-13, putting their record at 2-3 on the season so far. Don't forget to join me this Friday as we not recap. You can tell it's late. I'm ready to go to bed. But as we preview the upcoming matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the Caesars Superdome this Sunday. Oh, man, I hope I can shake it off by then. But I'm pretty sure I will, because every day I'm still going to be screaming, "Who dat?"